Harry Potter, the major plot holes ranked, and what they reveal. The Harry Potter series is built on rules. Spells have limits. Objects have costs. Secrets have consequences. However, as the story progresses, more solutions emerge that could resolve the issue in a single page, only to disappear when the plot requires the danger to remain genuine. Time travel exists, then becomes unusable. Despite the existence of truth magic, the justice system continues to operate based on panic and politics. Identity can be stolen, memories can be edited, and whole histories can be hidden in plain sight. This novel turns on whether a boy can win a war in a world where the strongest tools also threaten the story's stakes. The promise. By the end, you'll have a ranked list of the biggest plot holes, and rule bends across the 7 Harry Potter books. From the hardest to patch, to the ones that are more character choices with bad outcomes than true contradictions. You'll also know what each gap does to the story, which ones break the stakes, which ones sharpen the themes, and which ones quietly rely on you not thinking about them at 2 a.m. Key takeaways. A plot hole in this series is usually not one missing fact. It's a powerful tool introduced once, then fenced off so the war can still feel dangerous. The most significant gaps come from magical systems that behave like technology. Once they exist, you expect them to scale, spread, and get weaponized. The Trace shows the book's core tension. Institutions want control, but their tools are blunt and often misfire. Truth magic raises an awkward question. If you can verify reality, why do? The wrong people still get punished, and the right people still walk free. Secret keeping and surveillance are in a constant state of conflict. When one becomes too strong, the story has to turn it off to keep mystery alive. Several apparent holes are actually character failures: pride, secrecy, denial, and fear of looking weak. Those feel ugly, but they're believable. The series works best when magic amplifies human flaws rather than replacing them. When magic replaces consequence, the tension leaks out. Modern life has its versions of this: powerful tools, unclear rules, and institutions that insist they're in control while everyone can see they're not. The plot setup. Harry grows up mistreated and uninformed about his parents' deaths. At 11, he learns he's a wizard and enters Hogwarts, where he finds belonging, rivalry, and a hidden history that refuses to stay buried. The wizarding world treats Voldemort as a past terror, but the past keeps reaching forward. Inciting incident. Harry discovers that Voldemort is not simply gone. Across his first years at school, he repeatedly collides with remnants of Voldemort's power: cursed objects, manipulated adults, and a widening pattern of attacks that suggest a return is possible. Rising pressure. The threats escalate from school-level crises into open conflict. A prisoner escapes. Dark forces regroup, and the boundary between safe castle and war zone thins. Harry's link to Voldemort becomes clearer, and the cost of ignorance rises. The midpoint turn. Voldemort regains a body and returns. At this point, the story is no longer about rumors. It becomes about institutions denying reality, propaganda, fear, and fear. The slow, grinding shift from isolated danger to organized violence. Crisis and climax. Harry learns that Voldemort anchored his life to the world through Horcruxes. The fight becomes a hunt, and the hunt becomes a war. Hogwarts turns into the final battlefield, where alliances, sacrifices, and buried loyalties collide. Resolution. Voldemort is defeated, not by a bigger curse, but by the way his choices interact with the rules of wand allegiance, sacrifice, and the damage he's done to his own soul. The surviving world is scarred, but it's no longer forced to pretend the threat was imaginary. The insights. Before the deep dives, here's the ranking, from biggest stakes breaker to smaller but still meaningful strain. I'm also marking which ones feel like hard rule problems versus soft gaps the books leave unexplained. Rank 1. Time turners and the existence of repeatable time travel hard. Rank 2. The trace and underage magic enforcement hard. Rank 3. Truth magic and memory magic, not reshaping justice, hard. Rank 4. The Fidelius charm and secret-keeping logic across the series, medium hard. Rank 5. The Marauder's map and hidden identities, medium. Rank 6. Polyjuice potion and identity security, medium. Rank 7. Felix Felicis and other win-button magic that doesn't scale, medium. Rank 8. Mind control and memory editing raising why not just questions, medium. Rank 9. Travel and extraction options appearing unevenly under pressure, medium soft. Rank 10. Hogwarts security posture swinging wildly by book, soft but loud. Rank 11. Thestral timing after witnessing death, soft continuity. Rank 12. Scarcity and economics behaving oddly in a world with transfiguration, soft world logic. Time travel breaks the ceiling. Rank 1 is time turners, because once time travel is real and repeatable, almost every later crisis invites the same question: why not go back and stop it? The third book uses time travel as a clean mechanism for rescue and reversal. It isn't vague prophecy or dream logic. It's a regulated device that with planning can change outcomes. That raises the ceiling of what wizards can do. The series does try to close the door later. Time turners are shown as ministry-controlled, and the stock of them is effectively removed during the Department of Mysteries battle. That helps with why not use them in the final war. But it doesn't fully patch the deeper problem. Their existence means the wizarding world has already solved the hardest problem imaginable, and then chosen to behave like it hasn't. Even if they're restricted, the concept is now part of the world. The cost is simple. Once the audience knows time can be rewritten, danger has to work harder to feel final. The trace can't tell who cast the spell. Rank 2 is the trace, because the books repeatedly treat it as both precise and blunt, depending on the moment. In the second book, magic is performed in Harry's home by someone else, and the enforcement response still targets him. That strongly implies the system detects magic near an underage wizard, not the caster. That is a coherent rule, but it's a messy one. Later, the Ministry's ability to enforce underage magic becomes a major plot pressure. The problem is the same every time. If the trace can't reliably attribute the spell, it's more like a proximity alarm than a legal tool. That makes underage magic policing feel arbitrary. It also makes enforcement easy to weaponize. Someone can frame you by casting near you, and the system is built to believe the nearest child did it. The cost is that law, in this world, can look less like justice and more like a bureaucratic scarecrow. That may be the point, but it still strains believability in the moments where enforcement is treated as confidently accurate. Truth magic exists, yet innocence can't be proved. Rank 3 is the cluster of truth and memory tools, veritaserum, legilimency, and the pensieve. These are not minor tricks. Veritaserum is used in the books as a way to extract real information. The pensieve shows memory as viewable evidence, even if interpretation is still human. Legilimency is invasive, but it exists, and it works. Yet the wizarding legal system still allows catastrophic outcomes that feel, at minimum, preventable. Sirius Black is the obvious example. A man is condemned for a mass murder and sent to Azkaban without the story showing any serious systematic use of the tools that later exist in plain view. You can patch parts of this. Memory can be tampered with. Truth can be resisted. Institutions can be corrupt. People can refuse to look. All of that fits the series. The whole is the scale. Once these tools exist, you expect them to be central to justice and security, not occasional plot devices. The cost is that the ministry starts to look incompetent by design, not merely flawed. Secrets change shape when the story needs them. Rank 4 is the Fidelius charm and secret-keeping logic. The Potters go into hiding with a secret keeper arrangement that collapses in the worst way. Later, the series expands on how the charm behaves, how secrets can be shared, and what happens when the secret keeper dies. The mechanics feel like they develop as the story expands, rather than being stable from the start. That creates two kinds of why questions. First, why certain characters made specific secret keeper choices, given what becomes possible later. Second, why the charm's downstream consequences are sometimes treated as absolute and sometimes treated as flexible. The books do provide internal explanation for some of this. Wizards don't all understand magic equally. People make trust decisions under fear. Dumbledore, in particular, holds information tightly and uses layered protections. But the cost remains. Secret magic is so powerful that small shifts in its rules can retroactively change what earlier tragedies feel like. When the mechanism moves, the emotional weight can wobble with it. A map that should have ended the mystery. Rank 5 is the Marauder's map, because it introduces near-total surveillance inside Hogwarts. If you can see every named person moving through the castle, hidden identity becomes harder to sustain. The third book itself leans into this by using the map as a catalyst for discovery and confrontation. The largest strain is not Harry never noticed everything. It's that the map has existed for years in the hands of characters who are curious, rule-breaking, and constantly sneaking about. If a name like Peter Pettigrew appears in a teenage boy's dorm night after night, it invites questions that the books never show being asked. There are soft patches. They may not use the map obsessively. They may not recognize the name as meaningful. Hogwarts is large, and attention is selective. Even then, the tool remains overpowered. The cost is that mystery has to be protected by character blindness. That can work once. Repeatedly, it starts to feel like the story is holding its breath. Identity is too easy to steal. Rank 6 is Polyjuice Potion and Identity Security. The potion isn't just a disguise. It's an operational method. It enables infiltration, manipulation, and access. It works well enough to fool competent adults for extended periods when executed carefully. Once that's established, the wizarding world's casual assumptions about identity become fragile. The books do show paranoia rising later, with distrust and checks becoming more common. But earlier, the gap is obvious. If identity theft exists in a bottle, institutions should build routine defenses that would reshape schooling, banking, government access, and even social trust. The cost here is not a single broken scene. It's an unasked question. A world that has solved impersonation should be built around verification, and it mostly isn't. The win button problem. Ranks 7 through 12 are the same flavor. Magic that can decisively tilt events appears, is proven effective, and then becomes scarce, forbidden, conveniently unavailable, or ignored. Felix Felicis is the clearest example. It's framed as powerful, with limits, but still powerful enough that you immediately wonder why it isn't a wartime staple, even in small doses for key missions. The series gives reasons, difficulty, danger of overuse, and situational appropriateness. Those help. But the question doesn't disappear. Mind control and memory editing sit in the same zone. The imperious curse and memory charms are treated as grave crimes, but they are also practical. Tools villains and institutions could use more aggressively than the story often depicts. When they are used, they create a lingering, "Why didn't they do this earlier?" echo. Travel is another. Apparition has limits. Hogwarts has protections. Portkeys can be regulated. Even so, the series repeatedly places characters in situations where extraction, rapid movement, or communication feels strangely hard given what exists elsewhere in the same world. Then there are the softer ones. Thestral visibility has a continuity wobble around when Harry begins seeing them after witnessing death. Hogwarts security swings from elaborate defenses to baffling openness depending on the year's threat, and the economics of scarcity often behave like the non-magical world, even when transfiguration and magical labor would change daily life. The cost of this cluster is cumulative. Each item alone is survivable. Together, they make the world feel less like a system and more like a set of stage lights being switched on and off. Harry Potter keeps moving because the past keeps refusing to stay past. Voldemort's return isn't a single event. It's a slow unsealing of old choices, betrayals, half-truths, institutional cowardice, and a villain who built his survival into objects and people. The stakes rise, because each solution uncovers a deeper layer. Every time Harry learns one truth, it points to a bigger hidden structure behind it. What this looks like in real life. A school leadership team rolls out a new safeguarding system. It can flag behavior, but it can't reliably say who did what. Students learn to game it within a week. Employees begin to interpret alerts as probably correct, leading to the initial inclusion of the incorrect individuals. A company adopts a single source of truth dashboard. It looks definitive, so leaders stop asking basic questions. When the data is wrong, nobody wants to be the person who challenges it. Decisions are made faster, and mistakes get bigger. A public institution introduces a powerful tool for efficiency, then locks it behind approvals and exceptions. In practice, it's used only when the politics are safe. The tool exists, the press releases exist, and the frontline reality stays the same. A simple action plan. Where in your life does a powerful tool exist, but the rules around it are fuzzy? What do you assume is enforced that may actually be detected badly? Which problems stay unsolved because using the obvious fix would embarrass someone in charge? Where are you relying on secrecy when what you really need is a lengthy conversation? What do you treat as proof that would collapse if someone challenged the method? Which one-off advantages do you wish you could reuse? And what stops you? Where do you expect a system to be fair when it is built to be manageable? Conclusion. Harry Potter is at its strongest when magic intensifies human behavior, loyalty, fear, pride, denial, and the need to belong. The biggest plot holes show up when magic becomes a shortcut that should end the conflict outright, and the story has to quietly fence it off. Even with the gaps, the series lands because the final victory is not about having the best spell. It's about how choices echo through rules, relationships, and sacrifice. If you want more episodes like this, follow Taylor Tailored on Spotify. And for the written version and extra breakdowns, head to taylortailored.co.uk. Some worlds don't fall because the rules are evil. They fall because the rules are unclear. Relevance now. A lot of modern life runs on systems that feel magical until you look closely. Algorithms that know who did what. Institutions that claim certainty while acting on hunches. Tools that promise to solve a problem, then sit behind permissions when the problem becomes political. Harry Potter's greatest tension is control versus chaos. Who holds the rules? Who understands them? And who gets punished when the rules misfire? That maps cleanly onto workplace metrics, platform moderation, automated fraud checks, and reputation economies where being flagged can matter more than being right. Watch for this in real life. When a system can't explain itself, it will still demand you trust it. And the people with the most power will always argue the rules work fine.